Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 88 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this first quarter moon episode, we discuss health and biohacking. We speak with Dr. Mike van Thielen, expert in biohacking and best-selling author and TED speaker. I also review the book The Diamond Cutter, The Buddha on Managing Your Business and Your Life by Michael Roach and Christine McNally. The episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations for biohacking. As someone who is really interested and passionate about nutrition, I was so excited about interviewing today's guest and discovering more about biohacking. So here's a quick definition for you that I have found on Forbes. And it says, biohacking is the practice of employing methods drawn from fields like biology, genetics, neuroscience, and nutrition to enhance physical or mental performance, improve overall health and well-being, or achieve a specific health outcome like weight loss. And that is according to Bria Lofton, and she is a registered dietitian and nutritionist for health and wellness company Lumen. So interesting. When I think about biohacking, I think about Brian Johnson, who is known as the most measured human. And I know people might think that he's on this mission to not die. His slogan is "Don't die," and he has a whole team of scientists tracking every part of his life. And some would argue that he's actually looking older than his years, thanks to all of these practices that he's doing. But I find him quite quirky and entertaining. And even though you might not think he looks younger, he's definitely got some good biomarkers. So he's very interesting to watch for sure. And his thing is called The Blueprint, and it's he has such interesting content on YouTube that I would recommend watching, with a pinch of salt, of course. I think sometimes I love health, I love optimizing our health, but the thing is, it can get to a point where it becomes obsessive. And you might be so kind of fixed on whether something's good or bad for you that you might not be able to enjoy life and enjoy the present moment, because sometimes it is nice not to follow rules and indulge in something that's not exactly great for us, just for our mental health. But for me, I believe that I have been improving with age when it comes to my health and vitality especially. I think the first thing that I would say, the biggest improvement in my life as I've been getting older, is the fact that I have so much self-compassion about sleeping. And I was never a good sleeper, even as a child. My brain is just too active at night. So I always struggled on, let's say, the night before something important happening, night before exams or night before traveling or something like that. So for many years, that was something that I really struggled with. And I've had so many episodes of my life where I've just been absolutely exhausted. When I was in my 20s, I was kind of work obsessed because I'd been fired from a few jobs, like 3 in a year. So that kind of made me very paranoid. So I ended up becoming obsessed with, being on time, being good. And that really affected my sleep. I was always worrying about the day to come, the day after. I didn't want to take sleeping pills or anything like that, because I just thought, if I start now, I'll be on them for the rest of my life. So then I remember at the weekends, I would never go out on a Friday because I was absolutely shattered from the week. And then at the weekend, I used to sleep until 2 p.m. My body was just absolutely exhausted. And that, one of the motivations for working for myself, or one of the great advantages, is that since 2009, I've not been using an alarm in the morning. And that has created so much difference for me. I mean, now it doesn't mean I'm sleeping more. but I have so much more energy and more vitality than when I was in my 20s. And that's quite an achievement, I would say. And also the food I'm eating is just getting progressively better. I was never a good eater as a child. I was always a fussy eater. All I would eat would be potatoes and beans. My parents had a really hard time with me as a child. So trying to kind of having variety in my diet, and then thinking about, what's the nutritional value of what I was eating. I didn't think about those things at all until much later in life. So as I discover food and I enjoy food more and more and more, I'm always adding different components to my diet. And I'm very curious as well, which is something that I find that a lot of my peers don't have, the curiosity about food and what nutrients something has. I mean, I was in a shop recently that sells grains and seeds and all different things that you can just measure, you can just weigh them all, so there's no plastic, and different herbs and spices. And I was telling some of my friends, this has this has that, and they were just really fascinated by how the fact that I knew so much about these ingredients. And I'm thinking, how can you not be curious about what's going in your body? I mean, I think for me as well as a vegan, I've been extra concerned about, making sure that I'm getting everything that I need in my diet. So I am very, very curious. And also I used to use this app called Chronometer, which doesn't have an H in it. It's very interesting to actually track your food. And then you can see, your macros, you can see the breakdown of different vitamins and minerals that you're getting. And that's kind of easy to track when you're eating whole foods like I am. So it was kind of easy to see, let's say by lunchtime, if I was lacking vitamin E, then there were some suggestions to discover what are sources of vitamin E, things like that. So I always find that very interesting then to try and meet my targets every day. And also with age as well, I've been getting more and more into exercise. I mean, I come from a family who are very passionate about walking. Walking has always been a very big part of my life. And I do think walking is very, very, very important. I know, just recently I went away to a place where everyone relies on their cars for everything, and I never learned to drive. So, and I just felt like not good when I wasn't getting those daily steps in. For me, walking is kind of like a low effort but high reward way of just moving my body. And I think it's a nice way to discover your local environment, go to a park or something like that. I think just getting up and going to a car is not a good feeling, really. I just really miss sometimes when I'm in situations where I can't get a daily walk or 3, then I just don't feel good in my body at all. So yeah, walking has been a big part of my life for most of my life, and now I have not been on public transport for over 4 years, and I'm living in Barcelona, which has been amazing because I've actually managed to avoid public transport. On those rare days that I do need to take transport somewhere, I will take a taxi, but that's like once every 2 months. So my transport budget is 0. It's fantastic. And I just think walking is a great way just to move your body, and that's my source of transportation. So that means I have to get extra good shoes as well, because that's really important. And for my brain, I learned meditation about 5 years ago. I started meditating 5 years ago, and that has been incredible for my brain and just for my mental health. I found that it has been an incredible tool to resort to whenever I've needed to access this inner refuge that I refer it to as an inner refuge, because no matter what's happening in my life, I can just access that place through guided meditations, through all different types of meditations. And I feel like, having a very active imagination that I've always had since childhood, it does create this kind of sense of safety, a place of safety for me. And exercise has been, it goes beyond walking as well, going back to exercise briefly. Exercise for me is not just about the body, it's also about the mind. It definitely has so many advantages for the brain. And I started going to the gym maybe about 8 years ago. Before that, I used to be very anti-gym, thinking about all the germs that you would find in a gym. But more and more, I find that I love to discover new ways of moving my body, and also going to different classes, which also helps with your neural pathways when you're doing things that are not part of your routine. So currently I'm going to a class, a cross-training class at my private members club, and then I'm also doing the HIIT workout at Barry's boot camp, which is really kick-ass. I really love it. I don't like the treadmills, but I do love the combination of a bit of cardio and then resistance and strength training. So yeah, that combined with walking, and then also salsa dancing and bachata. I do that sometimes. I'm not doing it as much at the moment because of the heat, but I do find that is a great way to move your body, because it gets you really in the present moment. Because when you're dancing, you're not thinking, oh, how much longer? You're just enjoying the song. And it's interesting, it's also really good for your brain. I do think those classes, when you have these coordinated steps and everything, it's good for your body, obviously, but it's your brain that gets the most benefit from that, I think, because it's something you learn in your brain that your body copies or follows, sort of thing. So yes, those are all of the things that I am doing more and more and more, and I feel I have more and more energy as I get older, which is fantastic. But what's annoying is that it does seem to get harder and harder to burn fat, to lose weight, things like that. So I think you have to kind of adapt some of those things as you get older. But I think it's, there are many ways to eat, many ways to move your body. But what's really important is to get regular blood work to know what's happening inside. And I think I remember there's a doctor who says you're not what you eat, but you are what you absorb. So not everyone, not the same, different things work for different people. So I think that's very important to do that as well. And for me, I like to reduce the amount of pharmaceutical products that I ingest in my body, and just use that the miracle of modern medicine is just for those times when those natural remedies are not going to do it for me. So for me, I don't even have paracetamol at home. I mean, I'm eating a whole foods plant-based diet, so I don't have problems with inflammation. I was going to say inflammation or things like that, or aches and pains. I have turmeric, and I believe that is nature's ibuprofen. But that's how I'm living my life now, and I eat quite well. I'm eating 2 meals a day at the moment. And if I do want to indulge, I indulge, but usually it's not that unhealthy. I would like to lose about 5 kilos. But at the end of the day, it's about being full of energy and being able to do everything you want to do and fit in your clothes. I think that's kind of the objective for me. I'm always interested in discovering things about biohacking, but I think it's very important to know when not to obsess, really. When does the interest become an obsession, and have that line to be very clear. Anyway, let's find out more from today's guest, who is an expert. Are you ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and inner peace? Join us at the award-winning Yobaba Lounge in the French Pyrenees for a transformative, holistic self-love retreat from September 14th to the 19th. Immerse yourself in daily guided meditations, nature excursions, and powerful workshops designed to nurture your mind, body and soul. Hosted by me, Venus O'Hara, this retreat is your chance to prioritize self-care, embrace your uniqueness, and build a foundation of self-love. Don't miss this opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals and elevate your life, and enjoy a special welcome pack provided by Satisfyer, the #1 sexual wellness brand in the world. Visit yobabalounge.com/Venus for more information and to book your spot today. The link is also in the show notes below. That's yobabalounge.com/Venus. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We'll be speaking with Dr. Mike van Thielen, an expert in biohacking, best-selling author, and TEDx speaker. Dr. Mike Van Thielen, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for
Thanks for
taking
having me,
part
Venus.
in this interview today. It's a real pleasure. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Well, currently, I'm a recognized expert in biohacking. I'm a keynote speaker, so I speak at conferences and congresses when it comes to anti-aging, longevity, biohacking, peak performance. I also am an author. I wrote my book number 8, which is mostly about biohacking, but also about purpose of life and upgrading your life, your body, and your mind. And so, besides that, I really help people as a mentor, in different aspects of their life. Some people, I have a few cancer patients, Parkinson patients, I help them overcome their disease. But on the other spectrum, I also have top athletes and everybody in between, because it's about being the best version of yourself, about getting to that next level. Whether you're an artist, a musician, a top athlete, or an entrepreneur or a small business owner, it doesn't matter, because I don't necessarily need to know your trait. What I do is I self-optimize. I upgrade your body, your mind, and your life, and that in turn will get you to that next level, regardless what you're doing.
And what inspired you to follow this path?
Yes, I mean, from a young age, I was very competitive, and so I always kind of looked for the edge. And I would say, when I came here, probably you hear my accent. I'm originally from Belgium. I came here in 1997. So I've been here half my life now. I'm 52. But I always got interested, like I said, in finding the edge and what's out there that could make us better, right? And so I think when I was, working in pain management and physical therapy, I kind of saw that it wasn't really helping people. Then I went back to school, got my PhD in holistic nutrition, because I really didn't see any long-lasting results with any patients, including my own. So I decided to get a PhD in holistic nutrition, and I also decided to look at Mother Nature a little bit closer, because I assumed that Mother Nature has the truth about health, and so I started looking at animals in the wild. And so I even tell my patients, your second opinion should be another doctor. It should be just asking yourself, what do animals in the wild do? And by combining those two things, I really got very confident in helping anybody with their medical conditions. And so that's when I started to speak and writing books, etc. And so, for me, it's always, being the best that we can be. And especially after the pandemic, I decided, we need to help people out that really don't know their purpose, that really don't have a plan, that really don't have any guidance, that are fighting a disease it's not necessary, that are working a job they don't like, they're not living their purpose. And so today it's about, finding your superpower and not just stepping into it, but unleashing it. And so today I help a lot of people with programs. I just started a program called the Limitless Lab, which is a 12-week virtual or online training where we take people all the way from purpose to plan to how to be present in the moment, to how to upgrade the body, the mind, and life, and then put all those elements in a power routine that they can count on a daily basis to get to that next level and that next level and next level. And so it's very rewarding to see how you can change people's life in just a few weeks.
Amazing. The purpose of this podcast, the Orgasmic Lifestyle, is to reach climax in all areas of life. So we have a similar purpose, but a different methodology. So I'm always speaking to people with, different interests like health, spirituality, and sexuality, and personal development.
It's perfect. And it all goes together, obviously, because every aspect improves, right, when you upgrade. And so I think that most of it is or still awake in most of the people, because most of us live in this society with all these rules, and we're supposedly born, we have to go to school, then we have to go to college, we'll have to work for somebody till we're 65, and then there's the golden years which never come. And most of us are still, I call it, we're modern slaves, right? We don't have the shackles, but we are just working for somebody else. We're not really finding fulfillment. We're just distracted by these indulgences and conveniences of life, which is bad food and games and TV and Netflix and social media. And so we're trading those short-term pleasures and indulgences in for the real treasures of life. And so I think that most people don't even realize that we can be so much better, right? That there's so much outside of that comfort zone. That's where we grow. That's where we become extraordinary. That's where we find that orgasm, as you said. That's where we can find,
Climax.
the best version of ourselves. And most of us, think that we can obtain that. And I think that has a lot to do with our mindset, because I'm obviously teaching all about mindset too, and our ego and our society limits our potential, right? Because the bigger powers in the world, they don't want us to connect with the resources of the universe. They don't want us to tap into our unconscious mind, because then we're going to be so much more powerful.
I completely agree. And before I go into my next question, which is probably related to just that, what is biohacking? It's a term that we hear a lot, but what does it really mean?
Yeah, it's a very amorphous term. It has many different definitions, but my definition is simply upgrading the body, the mind, and life. And from a health point of view, it's basically objectively reversing your biological age. What that means is that obviously we all have a chronological age, it's our date of birth. But, I'm teaching people it's not important. It actually has zero importance, because we all know the 65-year-old that's in and out of the hospital and probably won't make it much longer, and has a very poor quality of life because she can't enjoy life, or he can't enjoy life. And then we have our 91-year-old that's still playing golf. It's 100% witty and is still 100% independent. So chronological life really doesn't mean much. It's our quality of life. It's our biological age. It's our lifespan, our health span. Those are all terms out there. But what that means is we can basically objectively today, with the strategies and technologies that are out there, and not just the elite, every average person that implements these strategies and technologies, I believe, easily can be 100 years chronologically. But the important part is be able to do what a 40, 50-year-old does. In other words, still go golfing, still go travel, still enjoy your grandkids, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's what life is about. It's finding fulfillment and have quality in life. And I think that's the really purpose of biohacking, is doing things on a daily basis that don't have to cost money, doing things on a daily basis to reverse that biological age. And actually, your chronological age goes up, and ideally, your biological age goes down.
Can you think of 3 tips how we can biohack our lives to just restart?
Well, there's
Our
at
daily
least
routines,
300
for
tips.
example.
There's at least 300 of them. But, and they're foundations. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to do this and I will reverse my biological age. It depends where you are health-wise, where you are in life, and then putting foundations in place and building upon those, of course. But to just give you 3 tips and ones that don't cost anything, I think breath work may be one of the more important ones and easy ones, because you can learn how to breathe properly online, YouTube videos. Right now, I think the best app out there for everybody to download for free is called The Source, formerly the Breath Source, because all the breath masters of the entire world are on that same platform. But I think people don't even know how to breathe properly, because we have this thing on our face. It's called a nose, and it's designed to breathe. The mouth is there to speak and to eat. It's not designed to breathe, because the nose is much narrower. It gets that air in a much narrower passageway, meaning forcing it down much deeper into the lower lobes of the lungs, the tissues, and the cells. And here we got something that's called a cavity, but it contains nitric oxide. And so we breathe in through the nose. It captures the nitric oxide, pushes it down into our body, and into our cells much more effectively. So the nose is designed to breathe. And unfortunately, over 99% of us don't breathe in and out through the nose. So a normal breath is 6 counts in through the nose and 5 counts out through the nose. But here's the biohack. If we breathe in 6 counts in and 5 out, that means we only take an average of 5.5 breaths per minute. Now, through the mouth, the average person breathes 16 to 22 times. So it would increase the efficiency by 300%. Now, what does that mean? Because we need oxygen to breathe. Yes, we need oxygen to breathe, but oxygen is also our enemy. It's called oxidative stress, oxygen rust, oxygen speeds up aging, right? So do you want to age? If the answer is no, you need to learn to breathe properly and increase efficiency by 300% just by learning how to breathe properly. So download that app, The Source or the Breath Source, and start learning how to breathe properly. It doesn't cost anything, just a little bit of effort. So that's probably number 1 biohack. Number 2 biohack. Again, I can go into science about NAD plus and NADPH, but maybe we'll keep it simple unless you want to talk about that. But I think the mindset, we just talked about that, right? We really need to get a coach like yourself or myself or many others out there to really teach you that we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind, and the conscious mind only stores basically absorbs and stores information that we pay attention to. So if people are listening to that podcast, it will be stored into the conscious mind. If they watch TV or read a book, conscious mind. But we have an average of 14,000 messages coming into us on a daily basis. So the vast majority of information coming to us, we're not actively processing. And so that's stored in the subconscious mind, operating below our awareness, basically. So that's where all the power is. That's where our potential lies. And so that's the first thing we need to realize. The second thing is we all have an ego, and the ego actually operates in our conscious mind. And so the ego is there to protect us from distress. But it's only bases that on the information in the conscious mind, so it's very limited. So when I talk about upgrading our mind or mindset, what I mean is we need to get in control or manage all the faculties of the subconscious mind and put that ego aside, because that's when we can basically get in connection with the resources of the universe, and that's where all our potential lies, and that's what will make us extraordinary, right? And I think that's one of the first things that we really need to work on, because otherwise we always will be limited and our ego always will be in the way. Even if we want to overcome cancer or Parkinson's, if we are held back by the past and by labels that doctors put on us, oh, you got cancer, oh, you got Parkinson's, and we don't get rid of those false core beliefs that we have those diseases and change that and transform that into us believing that we're going to overcome cancer, that we're going to be extraordinary, that we're going to, get a race in the company, that we're going to rise the best piece of music that we ever written, or whatever it may be, that we're going to win a gold medal at the Paris 2024 Olympics, whatever it is. If we use, strategies such as visualization, manifestation, gratitude, journaling, meditation, breath work also, whatever works for you to be pulled forward by the future and to basically create no doubt in our mind that we're going to achieve those goals and dreams, then that's what's going to happen, right? Because the mind is the blueprints to our success and failure. And so if there's any doubt in your mind, then the universe has two options, success or failure. But if there's no doubt in your mind that you're going to achieve something, then the universe only has one option, a big win. And so I think it's very important to, as a mentor, as yourself, also to really, especially initially, also is create or recreate or upgrade that mindset and upgrade that belief system by looking forward and using all those types of technologies and strategies that are now available to everybody to really jumpstart you being extraordinary and unleashing your superpowers.
Yeah, something I'm a big fan of is affirmations for that purpose, because affirmations is you don't have to listen to them, you just have them on. Actually, at the end of every episode of my podcast, I have whispering affirmations that are related to the topic. So in this, for your app, I'll probably make some biohacking affirmations. And I think that's really powerful, because affirmations are, you can be washing up, you can be sleeping, you can be doing sport, or just be engaged in something else and have these things going in is kind of quite powerful. You can listen to them or not.
Correct, because our thoughts are the blueprint and what the words we speak, right? So if we do these affirmations and that's what we're thinking about and that's what we're hearing and that's what we're speaking, then that's what's pushing us forward into that positive direction for sure.
So that was the second one. And number three?
I would say probably right now at this time hydrogen. I got hydrogen water, but I also have a machine that I'm looking at. I inhale 600 cc's per minute for an hour every day of molecular hydrogen. So molecular hydrogen is a medical gas. It's very safe. There's about 2,400 scientific research studies out there now. So it helps on a cellular level. And so now more and more research is coming out that it helps with cancer. It helps with any kind of brain condition, whether it's Parkinson's, MS, whether it's Alzheimer, dementia, etc., anything with the gut. So when we talk about Crohn's disease or irritable bowel or any GI distress, we get fast results in just a few weeks. And that's because hydrogen is the smallest molecule and also the lightest element in the universe. And unlike any other antioxidants such as vitamin C, D, selenium, zinc, and you name it, they're great, of course, because they neutralize free radicals, but they are charged, meaning they cannot cross the cell membrane and cannot enter the cell. hydrogen is not charged and easily can cross the blood-brain barrier and easily can enter every cell in our body. So it will protect, as an antioxidant, it will protect our RNA, DNA, mitochondria, proteins, etc. So from any aspect of life, you will see how powerful molecular hydrogen can be in anti-aging, in longevity, in physical performance, and in abolishing and managing any disease state in our body. So finally, because I've been looking at this for many years and I've been certified by the Molecular Hydrogen Institute, so finally we have this available to everybody. I know, I mean, some of the equipment and water bottles are really not great. And we always have that in any kind of industry where there's gadgets that not really work. So we have to, as a consumer, be careful that we spend our money right. But even now, we can inhale molecular hydrogen safely, which gives tremendous health benefits.
Great. So this takes me to my next question. Actually, tomorrow I have my deadline for my fourth book. So I've been super busy. Oh my God, it's been crazy because I had a deadline and then I have other work to do. I'm a freelancer, so I'm doing a million things. But I should have spoken to you a couple of months ago because I would have asked you this question: how can I supercharge my productivity to do my to-do list in half the time? I mean, because I've been really suffering, with wanting to do so many things. I have the podcast, a YouTube channel, and articles to write, and then emails to write, and a book to write. So that's been a huge challenge. So what should I have done? Because what I've done is actually I focus on my book, and then other things have suffered. That's what's really happened.
So that's what I put in my latest book. See, is optimize productivity. Right?
I should have read your book.
Valuable time. Yeah, you should have had it. But no, I mean, it starts with basic stuff. It starts with foundations, right? So we all do a lot of projects and we are working and multitasking and et cetera. So the first thing is, I talk when I talk to people with ADHD and stress and also people that just want to be more effective, I first go to basics, which is purpose. We need to make sure you know what your purpose in life and what you really want to achieve and what your goals and dreams are, something that ignites passion and fire in your stomach, something that when you wake up in the morning and you say, oh, I can't wait to get this done. And most people don't live like that. So we really got to find a purpose and find that passion again. And once we have that, we need to create a plan. What is it, Venus, that you want to really achieve, your ultimate goal, your big dream, right? And then break that down into incremental steps. And then we can start saying, okay, Venus, you're doing all these projects. Which one of them do not contribute to the big picture? Which one are not small incremental steps that get you where you want to be? And so when I do that with entrepreneurs and people alike, it's like suddenly we realize that we're involved in several projects that don't help us. We probably are helping a friend out or the boss out or somebody else. And the question is, should we drop that project because it doesn't really benefit us? Or it's not benefit our goals and dreams, at least. And so sometimes we're involved in too many things, but we got to start asking ourselves which ones are not contribute to our own plan, our goals and our dreams, right? So that way we can get rid of some of those, which would free up a lot of valuable time. And then it's just a basic question, and not necessarily for you, Venus, but for many, many clients and people is, okay, let's free up some valuable time during the day. And how do we do that? Well, let's see what you do during the day, right? So are you watching Netflix when you come home from work because you're tired? That's a waste of time, right? What does your day consist of? And many times we easily can free up an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours per day, which then we can use that time to really work on your purpose, right? I had even a top entrepreneur not too long ago who says, Mike, I know what you're saying, but listen, I don't waste any time during the day. I'm flying here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Okay, I said, I get you. So I said, how many meetings did you have today? Oh, 2. I said, how long were those meetings? Oh, an hour each. I said, really, you guys are top executives. Why can't you make an executive decision on a certain topic within 15 minutes and save yourself and everybody else on the call or on the Zoom meeting 45 minutes? So again, I cleared up an hour and a half, not just for him, but for everybody else involved, by saying schedule your meetings for 15 minutes, not an hour. There's no reason to have 1 hour meetings, right? So we always can free up some valuable time. And then it's about productivity, right? Then it's about the next step is about we need to be in control of our agenda and our calendar. We cannot overlap tasks. We cannot multitask. Multitasking is a mistake because you're going to spend more. If you do two things at the same time, ultimately, you're going to spend more time than doing one thing and complete it and doing the other thing and complete it. You end up more time because you're always going to have to overlap and revisit and restart. And at the same time, the end result of each of those tasks is going to be inferior than if you would do them separately, right? So you really got to get in control of your agenda and of your task, and you got to make sure they add into your incremental planning goals, right? And then for some people, especially those that can't focus, that procrastinate, because of a dopamine overload, most likely, it's about getting back to basics. What does that mean? Well, a lot of people work on their kitchen table. They work in front of the TV. They're doing their homework in front of the TV. And so every place has its designation. In the kitchen, we eat, or at the dinner table. In the living room, we relax and we watch TV or, YouTube videos or whatever it may be. In the bedroom, we sleep. We don't eat. We don't study. We don't do work. So where is the place where you work, where you get jobs done? And that's your designated workplace. And when you're going to do something, tell other people not to interrupt you. And then we have these devices that distract us. So let's put those off and let's focus on a task at hand. And then there's many techniques, such as I just named one, the Pomodoro technique.
I'm doing that,
technique
yeah.
So that one where we really are not distracted. This is put away 20 minutes, put the timer on. After 20, 25 minutes, we have a mandatory 5-minute break. And we repeat that cycle 4 or 5 times. And it's amazing how much can be accomplished, because we all know that we accomplish 80% of the things we do in 20% of the time, right? So what if we could always be what I call in the zone on demand? What if we always could be in that flow state? Or what if we could, I said on demand, what if we could just turn a knob on and off so we can be in the zone and be effective and productive, and then turn it off to relax? And most people cannot do it, but it's a skill that we all can learn. And so I teach people on how they can be in control, not be distracted, and be in the zone, in flow state, to get things done in a very timely and effective manner. And so those are kind of the steps that I use with my mentees to go from foundations, purpose, and plan into let's free up valuable time. And now let's get very effective and focused on those things that matter. And then that in itself will free up even more valuable time. Because suddenly it takes you only 2 hours to complete a task versus 4 or 5 hours, because you're distracted. You're going on social media, somebody interrupts you. You're going to go grab a coffee quickly with your car, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, what I've been trying to do is actually some different tasks is that I do Pomodoro, but 45 minutes. So I do 45 minutes email and actually use my phone to my advantage. I actually put the timer on the phone and put it away so I can't see it. So that's kind of cool. But what I was trying to do, because sometimes I have different tasks, and I was trying to do kind of like an hour this, an hour that. But then what I've learned is that immersion is what works best for me. So working on my book, I've been doing my book all day today, and this is the only time I'm not doing it because because it's the last day, of course. But I started just doing 1-2 hours, and then doing other tasks. But that doesn't really work. I need to I find that immersion is what works best for me.
No,
that's hard when you're doing when you have multiple things to do. And we hear the term ADHD a lot. It's become, more used. What does it really mean? And do we all have a little bit of ADHD? Because I think everyone is distracted these days, with all these
it's hard not to be distracted, right? Because again, we're basic organisms. And here we are bombarded, like I said earlier, we have about 14,000 messages input per day, and social media and this and that, and overwhelmed, and everybody asks something from you, right? And there's only those 24 hours. So I think we all get overwhelmed, and that's why it gets more and more important for us to get organized and to regain control of our agenda and of our life. Because I started writing about this and helping people during the pandemic. I was a CEO of a stem cell company, regenerative medicine clinic, and then COVID came and we were quote unquote non-essential. So here I am. Okay, what's next? And during that time, a colleague, a friend, doctor of mine called up and said, hey, do you have time? Because we need help with pre-screening people in the state of Florida for medical marijuana. I said, yes, sure. I really wasn't doing anything. But I ended up talking to about 100 people per week. And many of them obviously afflicted with anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, and you name it. And most of them are on smart drugs like Ritalin and Wellbutrin and Adderall, a lot of people on Adderall. And so I got a little bit intrigued in that. And that's when I also found asking them questions that, yes, there may be this lack of focus and stuff like that, but that's why I started writing about purpose. A lot of these people, they basically were lost in life. They didn't have a purpose of themselves. They didn't have any passion, any driving force. And so when you don't know what tomorrow brings, whether it's financially or just life-wise, and you don't know what next week and next month brings, and you're just living day by day and paycheck by paycheck and not knowing again what tomorrow brings, I would be worried too. And that's when you have worries, uncertainties, and fears, and all these negative emotions, which turn into what? Anxiety, depression, etc. Right? So I think that many of these conditions easily can be wiped away with helping people finding their purpose in life. Again, finding the purpose, making a plan so they're focused, they know where they want to go, they know when the deadline's on, taking those big dreams, cutting them down into very small incremental steps that can find fulfillment on a daily basis, because it's about regaining control. If we have control, we create clarity, and clarity gets rid of all stress. It's because we don't know what's coming that we're stressed, that we're anxious. We don't know what tomorrow brings. But that's why we need to retake control of our life, our agenda, our calendar, our purpose, our goals, and then go that direction. Because if we have a goal and if we have dreams and there's an obstacle, that obstacle is not looked at as an obstacle. It's an opportunity. It's a stepping stone. If we take it today and if we attack it today, we're yet a step closer to our big dream. But if you don't have that vision, if you don't have that goals, if you don't have that drive, an obstacle becomes another obstacle. Like, why me? Why does it happen to me? Life is not fun anymore. And there's the depression and stuff. It's all lack of direction, lack of clarity, lack of control. So that's the first thing I do with people. And then the second part, I would say there's this dopamine overload. 1, 2, 3 decades ago, I was talking about how to increase dopamine, because dopamine is the motivation hormone. It's the reward hormone. When your brain squirts dopamine, it feels good. It's like getting a pat on the back. But today, I think most of us are in a dopamine overload. What does that mean? We have 5 intelligence hormones: dopamine, epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and acetylcholine. And if those hormones are in balance and at optimal levels, that's where we're in flow state. That's where we're in the zone. That's when nothing distracts us. That's when we win. That's when we crush our sales presentation. That's when we, crush our sales goals, and the list goes on. So when we're in a dopamine overload, why are we in dopamine overload? Well, because we're searching for that squirt of dopamine because it feels good. So unhealthy foods, energy drinks, sugary food. And then today, social media, consciously or unconsciously, we're spending more time in there because we're seeking that dopamine. If somebody likes our comment and somebody hearts our Instagram, it feels good. So we're seeking more of it. And suddenly we're wasting not only time on there, but we're now addicted to it because it's a dopamine. And so when we create a dopamine overload, the result of that is brain fog, inattention, lack of focus, procrastination, and it's a vicious cycle we can't get out of. So the first thing I do is educate people about dopamine overload, upgrade their diet, but also regain control, not just their life, but regain control over social media. How are we going to use it to our advantage, and how are we not going to be addicted to it or wasting time on it, right? And so now we're balancing those hormones, and suddenly there's no attention deficit anymore. We can be focused, and we incorporate the techniques we just talked about: a designated working place, maybe a Pomodoro technique, whatever works for that client. And many times without any drugs, when we organize people's lives, show that how they can regain control of their life, control of their agenda, having some structure in their life, knowing what tomorrow will bring, then suddenly all those negative emotions and anxieties and depressions and PTSDs, they suddenly disappear.
Yeah, I've actually, I think, social media, it can be a great thing or it can be a bad thing, depending on who you follow, I think. So I think it's very important for people to, actually think about what the emotional reaction is to the posts you're seeing. So I think there's a lot of potential for inspiration on social media, motivational quotes and productivity hacks, etc. And even when you're talking about Netflix earlier, I know a lot of friends of mine, they do Netflix for a month over Christmas and they take it away because they think it's the worst thing ever, But for me, I actually use it in a very mindful way because I'm always looking at things that are related to spirituality, sexuality, relationships. And yesterday I started watching the new gut health documentary. So there's a lot of great things about health. But when I see, a series and it has 3 adjectives, when I see thriller, suspense, I'm like, no way, I don't want to have that in my brain before bed, because that's not going to be good. Because I think this is so terrible. Like we're we're kind of desensitized to violence, which is not a good thing. And so it can be a good or bad thing. But I think for most people, they just get down that rabbit hole and they start watching a series, and then they watch 10 episodes. Whereas 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's watching one a week. So it wasn't the same.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly right. So no, of course, it's about, like you said, being aware of what you're doing, right, and being in control. So of course, you want to have social media as an advantage, especially if you know how to market on social media, how to look up information. I mean, this is a great advice. I remember me taking a bicycle in the rain in Belgium, driving to the library, finding a book, which took an hour to find the book, and then looking up what I needed to look up. So hours go by, and we have this on our fingertips, and in 1 minute I got. And now with AI, it's crazy what information we have on our fingertips. But like you said, we need to be conscious about it and use this to our advantage and be aware of the fact that it can be very harmful to us at the same time.
So let's talk about my second favorite topic, nutrition. I'm such a big fan of food. I'm a whole foods, plant-based, organic, make my own food, no processed food. I just love real food. And here in Barcelona, it's probably a lot more accessible than maybe in the States, because everything is quite reasonably priced. I buy direct from farmers. So can you tell us more, because you're obviously an expert in nutrition as well, and how can we use nutrition to biohack our health?
Yes. Usually, I think this is good for your listeners, because it's an aha moment is what I call it, and it's very simple to understand. So I like to talk about toxemia. Toxemia to me is the cause of all disease, right? So if we understand it, then we can manage our health and our diseases. So toxemia literally means toxins in the blood. But in a little bit more detail, what it means is, as part of daily living, as part of our metabolism, we obviously produce waste and toxins. But in a healthy organism, those toxins are removed from our body through the kidneys, the bowels, the skin, etc. So no harm is done. However, again, in today's society, we are exposed to and take in far more toxins than our body possibly can eliminate. So now there's an accumulation of toxins in our blood and our body, and that's what we call toxemia. Now, scientific research shows clearly that this toxemia causes 2 things. Number one, these toxins floating around in our body that cannot be eliminated, they are basically stealing an electron from a healthy atom, which then becomes unstable, which we all know as free radicals. So that's where our oxidative stress comes from, right? Aging, damage on a cellular and even a DNA level, right? So that's number one. Number two, even easier to understand. When there's more toxins coming in than we can eliminate, and we have this accumulation of toxins, we basically are in a state of emergency. And conventional medicine actually has a name for this. It's called systemic inflammation. And so even conventional medicine now agrees that over 90% of all disease is directly correlated to systemic inflammation. So toxemia is the cause of all disease. So how do we avoid any disease, any and all disease, basically? Well, simple, theoretically, we need to keep toxemia in check. How do we do that? Well, number one, we need to mitigate and reduce the intake and exposure of toxins. From what? Man-made foods, man-made drinks, over-the-counter, prescription medication, household products, cleaning products, cosmetic products that we put on our skin, shampoos and things toxic stuff that we put in our hair. And then today, electromagnetic frequencies and radiations, right? They're invisible, but they are there. Thousands and thousands of studies. So what we need to do what we can. We can't eliminate it all, because we don't live in pristine areas anymore. But we can do a lot that doesn't cost any money to drastically reduce that intake and exposure, while simultaneously upgrading our diet, meaning upgrading the intake of what? Of nutrients that fight free radical damage, our antioxidants, our hydrogen we talked about, that fight systemic inflammation, right? So now we're talking about whole foods, we're talking about fruits and vegetables, and we're talking about avoiding everything that causes inflammation, which is your meats, which is your white bread, your white grain products, anything that's acidic, anything that causes inflammation, right? And things that repair our DNA. So if we do that, and we don't have to be health freaks to do that, people think, oh, I can't do that. It's Dr. Mike must be a health freak. No, I'm not a health freak. On Tuesday, I do get a taco, and I have one drink in the weekend with my friends, etc. But what I'm doing is I'm just tipping that balance. And it's all we need to do to keep toxemia in check and be bulletproof against any viruses, pathogens, degenerative diseases, or cancers of the 21st century. So that's why it is important to upgrade that diet, because with your diet, if you do all plant-based, which is the way it should be, and I always have discussions with people that think meat's healthy, but it's not. And that's
really
another discussion.
interesting.
I can give you many reasons for that. And I love those discussions. But, plant-based, wholesome, organic, because we're doing two things, right? We're putting this up, and at the same time, we're doing what? Limiting all those toxins and colorings and, everything that they use in our food. We're avoiding those. And at the same time, we're giving our body the right nutrients.
I've had Dr. Joel Furman on this podcast. I love his approach with the nutritarianism. It's about, having every calorie having the most nutrients possible. And Dr. Michael Greger will be coming on soon in a few months. But for me, it's kind of like a spiritual thing, actually. I mean, I feel amazing. I haven't eaten meat since 1996. So it's not really an ethical thing. It's just more about, it just feels amazing. And I stopped wearing makeup 2 months ago, but that's an interesting phenomenon as well.
Yes.
But it just feels
our skin is our biggest organ, and so our skin reflects our health inside. It's that simple.
Yeah,
we can try to hide it with all kinds of stuff, but no, you got to heal it from the inside.
And also I have a herbalist who actually made me a special tea for concentration and focus, which had gotu kola, ginkgo biloba, and rosemary. So that was my concentration blend for my
That's a
book.
good one, because ginkgo always has been known as a natural nootropic. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So about anti-aging, that's a really big topic now. And I think I've spoken to a lot of anti-aging people. There's another woman called Susan Bratton. She talks about the sexual span, which is kind of interesting. And also I've spoken to another guy from the male perspective, who's the CEO of a company called Firmtech, because that kind of sexual function is very, very much linked to vitality and sexual and just health in general. But I think a lot of people, when they think about anti-aging, they focus on looking good and not really about functionality. What would you say about, what do you think?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And now we just talked about biohacking, but basically they just changed the terminology. But what it is we always stay on the edge, right? So in the late 20th century, early 2000s, it was all anti-aging, and then it kind of went into regenerative medicine and stem cells, and now it's biohacking. And they are just terms, but yeah, anti-aging, most people think about Botox and think about cosmetic products and think about all those types of things. But, it's probably not the best term to use. A lot of people don't like the term biohacking either, so that's, I guess, a personal preference. But really what we're looking at is, if you upgrade your body and your cells and your mind and everything that we talked about today, you don't have to worry about the way you look, because as a side effect, just like you just said, I don't need any makeup anymore. You are going to look younger because you are reducing your biological age. The age of what? Your cells, your tissue, your skin, your tendons, your ligaments, everything inside your body, we're reversing its age, right? And so if we can do that, that's the most powerful and long-lasting. We don't have to go back to get more Botox, right? Long-lasting anti-aging formula right there. But as you know, Venus, most people are here for a quick fix, a silver bullet. Everybody always wants instant gratification, and it's still that mindset of, lack of self-control and choosing overindulgences and immediate satisfaction above the great treasures of life. And so, one has to ask oneself what they really want in life, before making decisions on how they're going to achieve that and how they're going to get there. Yes, you can get off that wrinkle with Botox, but then you got to get more Botox, and ultimately it's like, do I want to get rid of this wrinkle naturally? Yes, you can, but then you have to, put in a little bit more time.
Oh, so how do you get rid of the wrinkle naturally? That's a big question.
Yeah.
Do you have any ideas about that? About how to?
No, I was just generally referring to, if you get healthier and actually reverse your biological age, you're going to look much younger and better, because you are. That's your biology. That's the way you look. We also, again, I mentioned the 65 and a 91-year-old earlier, but at the same time, you think about people in your life. There's 60-year-old people that look like they're 90, and then there's 90-year-old people that you would guess they're 60, 65, right? So again, chronological age does not matter. It's how do you take care of your body, right? And so you could change that by just living healthier, not necessarily by going to plastic surgeons and doing all kinds of superficial treatments that only mask symptoms but don't correct symptoms.
Because one of my big questions is because all of the cosmetics I use are edible. Like I like shea butter or rose water, or castor oil is my latest thing I'm really into. And also for removing like coconut oil for kind of removing makeup if I ever wear that. But one question I have is about sun cream and the sun. I mean, because I just tend to wear hats and just stay out of the sun and wear long kind of shirt dresses, so I'm not really in it. But I've become more concerned about that lately. So because these have a lot of chemicals in them. So how do we take care of our skin?
Well,
And is the sun really that bad?
Yeah, a double answer again, right? So you said it right. If let's go back to what I said. Sometimes when you want an answer, you ask yourself, what do animals in the wild do? And it always gives you the truth. So think about sun and animals in the wild. Do you see animals in the middle of the day roaming around in the sun? Never, right? Because if you want to see animals in the wild, you got to get up early. So animals in the wild, they hunt, when the sun comes up, they hunt at night, they hunt late in the evening, and then they eat their meal and they rest in the shade, right? They're never out in the heat of the day. And we're not supposed to be either. But a lot of people, I think, don't know the difference between sunlight and heat. So sunlight is crucial for optimal health because light stimulates all biological, physiological, and nutritional processes in our body, right? And so sunlight is important, and that's why we should spend more time outdoors. Whenever you can, during lunch, go out. In the evening, if it doesn't rain, go sit out with your family. During the weekend, spend time outdoors. And take your shoes and your clothes off, maybe not all of them, but whatever you can take off, because you want that exposure. Clothes has limited our health, or basically inhibited us being abundant and very healthy as a species, because it prevents us to absorb that sunlight, right? So we need to spend more time in sunlight, number one. But the heat exhausts us. And when you look at animals in the wild, none of them spending time outside in the sun during midday. Not one animal does that, right? Because it exhausts you. And it's the heat that's also when you get burnt, because that's when the UVA, UVB are high, etc. When the sun first comes up, those rays are not there, right? So the first thing is there's no reason to be exposed to the heat of the sun. When you go in the early morning, sunset, sunrise, you don't have to worry about getting burned, right? So ideally, you never spend that time there. But if you have to, again, then you don't want to use your usual sunscreen, because you're supposedly trying to avoid cancer from the sun, yet you're putting all those toxins on every square inch of your body, which probably gives you much faster cancer than the sun ever would, right? But then we have, obviously, in our whole food stores and natural food stores, we have alternatives. We got the zinc. Of course, it doesn't look as good. People don't want to put the zinc on because it looks white, and then you don't look as good anymore. But if you have to be in the sun for whatever reason it is, there's natural alternatives to the toxic sunscreens out there. But, I'm in Florida. We go out on a boat and stuff quite often. I like to go in the morning, but if not because I'm taking friends out, I'm just in the shade. I always look for shade, and I'm not going to expose myself to the 2 p.m. sun in Florida during the summer. That's never going to happen.
So what's the most natural sun cream then? So what's the most natural? The zinc, would you say, is the most natural sun protection?
Yes, and I've not been updating myself on sun creams, but if you go to those types of health food stores, you look at the labels, there are certain products that I just mentioned zinc because I know that one, and I have one that I put on my nose and my ears, but then it looks white, right? Because you can't really rub it in. But that wouldn't be harmful for you to use. So step number one, try to avoid the heat of the sun. And if you want to be outdoors, do it in the morning, do it in the evening. Don't go out when the sun's blaring so you get burnt. And if you're not out in the sun when you can't get burnt, then you don't need the sunscreen, right? So that's step number one. Step number two, if you have to be out, get your natural alternative.
Yeah, so for me, it's like hat and like kind of white linen dress, like long sleeves, and
Yeah, exactly. Then you don't need the sunscreen. Yeah.
Great. I've been doing that for years. Yeah. So out of all your books, which one would you recommend that I read now you know a little bit about me?
Well, the last two. This is the last one, obviously, the ISOT method, because it talks about that productivity and it has a lot of biohacking information in there. And then the one before that was a bestseller called EMR, Electromagnetic Radiation, the Invisible Threat. And that's really a practical guide on what everybody can do at no cost inside the house, outside the house, to protect and mitigate, the electromagnetic frequencies. So
I've interviewed a guy
do.
who's called Justin Franson from EMF Rocks. Don't know if you know him, but he sells bags of rocks to counteract the radiation.
Yes, and again, I'm not saying they don't work. I'm not familiar with them, but I have an EMF meter in my house, and so even if I go out there, like next week, I will be at the A4M in West Palm Beach, Florida. There will be lots of vendors, many of them with great stuff, and others with gadgets that may or may not work. But when it comes to EMF, I just measure it. So if there's something that's supposed to block EMF, then I just take my meter out. And I don't need to see the research. I measure what is the millivoltage of voltage on my body right now. And if I use the gadget, does it lower, yes or no, right? Okay. So that's the way how I know things work or don't work. So I don't know if that works or not, but my suggestion would be get an EMF meter and measure if it works or not.
Okay, so would you recommend switching the Wi-Fi off at night?
Yes, for sure. Or you can also buy a Faraday bag. It's a bag you put your Wi-Fi router in, which still lets the signal to, but blocks all the electromagnetic radiation.
Oh, interesting.
And so my book has like pages and pages of small little things, just like this one, that you can do to drastically reduce your exposure to EMF.
And that's the latest book, you said?
This was the latest one. The other one, I can grab it for you, but it's called EMR, okay. the invisible threat. Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of questions I ask everyone in my podcast. Excuse me. What is the book that changed your life?
There's a few, of course, but for me personally, I probably would. The first one that comes to mind is Stephen Covey, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because it talks about 7 habits. And of course, when I was younger, we're all more opinionated and et cetera, and we think we know it all. But habit number 5 is listen to understand, then to be understood. And so I really practice that and learn to listen to people versus interrupting them or thinking about what you would respond before they're done talking, right? And I think that's one of those simple books that everybody can understand with a few habits, 7 habits in this case, to be highly effective. And I think that was, one of the turning points in my life where I started not to look at independence, but interdependence. It's working together with other people to achieve higher goals versus thinking you know it all and saying, I'm independent. Yes, you're independent, but that's a level below interdependence and synergy.
Okay. Anything else that's been inspirational in your life? Books?
Maybe Superhuman from Joe Dispenza, right? Because that's where we really have the science proving that these meditation and these frequencies and the things that we do actually alter and rewire our brain. Because conventional medicine always thinks, oh, it's hocus pocus, but it's now finally, and in his book, it came through very clearly, scientifically proving that with meditation and with, those tools, with rewiring your brain, you can rid yourself of cancer and diseases. And so that was all measured. I don't know if you know the story behind it, but basically, he's an MD and they were questioning him. So he does those 1-week retreats with hundreds of people. And so German scientists actually came to measure it. And so they did EEGs of people with, let's say, Parkinson's. So you can see the substantia nigra and the degeneration. And then a week later, they retested it, and there was no medicine, there was no intervention. It was just the meditation and the collective energy, of course, right? Because it's not just yourself, which is exponentially greater. And again, they saw, some of these conditions totally disappear, with their objective measurements and technology. And so that was kind of a book that I was kind of happy about, because we know how powerful the mind can be, but the majority always need some scientific evidence or proof. And so that was one of the books that I said, oh, this is great.
Yeah. Yeah, right. He's actually coming to Barcelona in about 3 weeks. It's sold out so fast. Yeah. I mean, he's coming for just a weekend retreat, which is a pity, because I always wanted to go and see him, and it's just impossible.
You gotta be quick, yeah.
Yeah, but I was talking about influences. How about the people around us? Because sometimes we can be around people who just complain. It's kind of cooler to complain than be positive sometimes. I mean, that can really affect our mentality.
Oh, majorly, right? There's this saying that's 100% true. If you surround yourself with 5 drug addicts, you will be the 6th one. If you surround yourself with 5 millionaires, you will be the 6th one. And so it's so important to really carefully choose who you hang around with. So if you want to be positive, if you want to be successful, and you're not right now, well, then there's one step you got to do, is identify the people that are and hang around with them, and you will be the next one. And so if you hang around with the wrong people, you're going to end up in trouble yourself, right? Or you're going to be failure versus success. And that's always going to be true. We're products of our environment, and we adapt to our environment. So you got to very carefully choose who lifts you up and who drains your energy, right?
Definitely. I feel very fortunate with this podcast, because I have incredible guests and they all come to me, which is amazing. And it just feels like a huge blessing. The kind of people, sometimes I'm just looking at the wall after, like, oh my God, I feel like I'm having personal coaching sessions from experts, which is amazing. So which affirmation or phrase do you live by? That's another question I ask everyone.
Yes, it's a very simple one. I never lose, I win or learn.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah, I never lose, I win or learn, because, again, people talk about, again, it's important the words come out of your mouth. So people always are held back by their failures. But the things that happened in the past that didn't work out are not failures, they're lessons, right? And if we look at them as lessons, then we know the next time we're going to be better for it. And that's how we get to our goals and dreams. So, I kind of learned that, moving down here, I didn't have much. Grew up with just my mom and my brother. We didn't have much money, so I had to save $400, pack my backpack, put my jeans on, and come live the American dream. And needless to say, I got knocked down many times. So my motto quickly became, I never lose, I win or learn. And so
I think I saw that on your thing about $400. I actually came to Barcelona with €400 and 2 backpacks.
There you go. A similar story.
Different currency, but yeah.
Yes.
And what are you working on now? What's your current projects?
Well, I put together it's called the Limitless Lab. It's a 12-week program where we basically maximize everybody's potential and peak performance. Whether you're an athlete or an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter, because we do it through self-optimization. So the Limitless Lab is, I call it my P5 formula, the 5 Ps. So we talked about it today: purpose first, then plan, then learning how to be present in the moment, in the zone, productivity. We talked about that. Then the power of upgrading the body and the mind. That's biohacking. And then we pour all those elements into a power routine, something that you can do on a daily basis to take those incremental steps forward and get to the next level. So I put this course together, and now I'm just promoting it and getting more and more people involved so I can help them out with those 5 steps and get them to that next level.
Amazing. Sounds amazing. So where can people find you?
I'm not the biggest social media guy, so the best place is just my website, biohackingunlimited.com. You'll find the Limitless Lab information there. You'll find all my books there. You can schedule a 20-minute free Zoom call if you want to just chat with me and see if I can assist you in any way, shape, or form. We have a Costa Rica VIP retreat set up again, but it's 2025. We do those retreats once in a while. And so everything that you need to know, or My contact information is on my website, biohackingunlimited.com.
Great URL. That's a great website. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks, Venus. Thank you for your time. It's teamwork here to get the word out. So thank you also.
Thank you. The book I'm reading now is The Diamond Cutter, The Buddha on Managing Your Business and Your Life. And this is written by Michael Roach and Christy McNally. I'm reading this book because I recently went to an event hosted by someone from the Asian Classic Institutes or something like that. He was called Timothy Lauenhaupt. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, but it was about Buddhist advice for business, and I thought this was going to be very interesting. And I'm always interested in seeing how people present their ideas, not always in topics that I'm interested in, but as someone who is, trying to become a professional public speaker, I find it interesting how people present their ideas, how they engage, and how they convey their knowledge to an audience. But I actually was interested in the topic as well. I mean, when you're kind of bringing spirituality and business together, I think that can be potentially very interesting. When I think about that combination, I think of business that's based on good values, because obviously not all business is. A lot of business is just about making money at whatever cost, So this was something that intrigued me a lot. And the speaker was interesting as well, because what was compelling about him was that he wasn't your typical confident public speaker. He was actually quite softly spoken, maybe not as with stage confidence. I probably have more stage confidence than he does, but everyone was really listening to what he had to say, because we could all sense that there was something really important that was going to be coming out of his lips at any moment. And what was interesting is this was held at my private members club called The Cover, which is a fantastic place in Barcelona. I go to all of the events there, and lately they have been on fire. But so this particular one, they allowed guests who were not members, and I learned that a lot of these guests who came have been following him around the world. That's how impressed they were by him. And if you've been following this podcast, you'll know that I ask all of my guests, what is the book that changed your life? And this particular person, it was The Diamond Cutter, written by Michael Roach, this book I have in my hand right now. So as soon as I heard that, I was like, I'm getting that book, because he's kind of like based his life work on it almost, or just he is working with the author now, Michael Roach. So I'm always interested to see, how someone's words can impact you to the point where it's going to change your life, because you can read many things, learn many things, but what I'm interested in as a reader is, how does something impact your life? How is what's going to happen when you close the book? So this book is just it's very interesting. Well, I've just started reading it, so I'm probably not going to do it justice in this small review today. But I'm very intrigued by it. One of the chapters has about 45 different business problems, and it offers you a Buddhist solution, which is quite interesting. And also what we were discussing in the event that I went to, people were sharing some of their business frustrations and some day-to-day issues that they were having. And one guy was talking about cash flow and how he was paying everyone on time, but his suppliers were not paying him on time. Sorry, he was paying his suppliers, but some of his clients were not paying him on time. And when things like that happen, let's say if you're waiting for a message from someone and they're not getting back to you, the advice we were given was just to actually think, well, am I making someone wait? Am I kind of contributing to this energy somehow? He didn't use the words like energy, but I thought it was an interesting way to think about life in general, because sometimes I get very frustrated if I send lots of emails for new collaborations and then people don't get back to me. But I think, who is waiting for me? Because there always are some people who can be waiting for me to get back to them. So it's good to kind of tie up those loose ends first before then hopefully inviting that energy back to you, and you'll get what you need. And that can apply to anything really, even with money. Like if you're waiting for someone to pay you, but have you paid everyone who's waiting for money for you, you know? So that was kind of an interesting exercise to consider for business. So for right now, I'm probably, I might just review this again, because I think this book is going to definitely impact me. I know I've underlined quite a few parts of it. Another part which was interesting from the event and also from the book was about perspective and perception. For example, the example that Timothy gave was showing a pen, and he asked us, what is this? And then we were saying it's a pen. But then if a dog comes in, what is it to the dog? And the dog can't write, so it would be a toy. So it's interesting how the same object can mean different things to different people. And that can apply to arguments. It can apply to so many things in life, and conflict, like who's right. You know, if you are, I think at the end of the day, we're all right. We're just sharing perspectives. So that's something to think about when we are arguing or in conflict with someone. And in the book, it also talks about, let's say you find someone irritating, but that person who you find irritating, there will be people in that person's life who will find them lovable and charming. So who is right? So it's planting some seeds in my brain about perception and just a lot of things really. But I'm still very much at the beginning of this book, so the true wisdom is in the pages to come. So that is The Diamond Cutter, the Buddha on Managing Your Business and Your Life, and that's written by Michael Roach and Christy McNally. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am the architect of my vitality. I commit to a longer, healthier life. I optimize my health daily. My body is resilient and powerful. My body is strong. My body is capable of incredible transformation. My mind is sharp, my body is strong, and my spirit is unbreakable. I am the architect of my vitality. I commit to a longer, healthier life. I control my biology for peak performance. I evolve by learning and experimenting. I make choices that optimize my physical and mental performance. I am committed to living a longer, healthier, and more fulfilling life. My mind is sharp, my body is strong, and my spirit is unbreakable. I am the architect of my vitality. I commit to a longer, healthier life. I am constantly upgrading my mind and body. I am the architect of my health and vitality. I biohack my way to greatness. My life is a constant upgrade. My mind is sharp, my body is strong, and my spirit is unbreakable. I am the architect of my vitality. I commit to a longer, healthier life. I listen to and nurture my body. Nature and technology enhance my well-being. My vitality increases daily through conscious choices. I am proactive in enhancing my life's quality. My mind is sharp, my body is strong, and my spirit is unbreakable. I am the architect of my vitality. I commit to a longer, healthier life. I listen to my body's signals. I am constantly evolving. I embrace innovation to enhance my health. I experiment boldly and grow stronger. My mind is sharp, my body is strong, and my spirit is unbreakable. I am the architect of my vitality. I commit to a longer, healthier life. I harness science for peak health. I thrive by fueling my body with the best. I harness the power of nature and technology to enhance my well-being. My cells are regenerating and rejuvenating. I adapt and evolve for longevity. My mind is sharp, my body is strong, and my spirit is unbreakable. Are you ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery and inner peace? Join us at the award-winning Yobaba Lounge in the French Pyrenees for a transformative, holistic self-love retreat from September 14th to the 19th. Immerse yourself in daily guided meditations, nature excursions, and powerful workshops designed to nurture your mind, body, and soul. Hosted by me, Venus O'Hara, this retreat is your chance to prioritize self-care, embrace your uniqueness, and build a foundation of self-love. Don't miss this opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals and elevate your life and enjoy a special welcome pack provided by Satisfyer, the #1 sexual wellness brand in the world. Visit yobabalounge.com/Venus for more information and to book your spot today. The link is also in the show notes below. That's yobabalounge.com/Venus. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/VenusO'Hara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening. Have an orgasmic week and make sure every day is a climax.